Okay, so many of us in the West are asking, where are the Muslims? Where are they to denounce terrorism? Where are they to denounce extremism? Where are they to denounce the treatment of women in the Islamic world? Where are they to denounce the ethnic cleansing in Darfur? All happening in their name, in the name of their religion. Now, when you try and debate this with Muslims from YouTube or in forums and stuff, what they'll do is they'll send you typically an obscure link to some obscure group or some junior minister Ahmed in Turkmenistan or whatever who denounced terrorism once, and they'll go, you see, we're denouncing terrorism. That guy denounced terrorism, or that little group denounced it. And it's pathetic and it smacks of desperation. What we in the West want to see are Muslims out in the street in their thousands, holding placards saying no terrorism in our name. Now, I'm not saying the whole Islamic world is connected through some Islamic radio frequency and they can all talk to each other and organise this. But what we do know is that when they want to march, they certainly can. We saw Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses. Hundreds of thousands of Muslims, maybe even millions across the world, protesting, burning effigies, death threats. We saw more recently the cartoons, riots, churches getting firebombed, calling for beheading. Even the moderates pulled about 20,000 just in Britain alone to their protest. We had, of course, the Pope's speech. Then we had there was that false report of a Quran getting splashed with water and in Guantanamo or whatever, flushed in a bog. 17 people died in the ensuing riots, and the story was retracted because it was false. And anti-America protest, Israel, anti-Iraq war, etc. draws a lot of Muslims. So what we do know is they can and do march in their tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. So where are they when it's time to denounce terrorism in their name? Right. This is where my Muslim pie chart comes into play. What? Sorry, I meant to draw a pie chart, not a lemon. Demented grapefruit. That'll do. Right. This is more relevant to Europe than it is to America. In America, it's becoming increasingly a problem, but the Muslims in America know that any of their shenanigans that they get up to in Europe, Americans will kick their ass. They'll be in an orange jumpsuit straight into Guantanamo before they can say Allahu Akbar. Now, in Britain, we're told that about 1,200 Muslims are considered terrorists and are being watched, and there are about probably 2,000 roaming around Britain all in. That means bombers, organisers, financiers, etc. There are about 1.8 million Muslims in Britain. Yeah, that's what they say. So, that constitutes about that. Terrorists. Alright? The next lot, there have been a few polls in Britain. One of the most thorough ones showed that 1 in 4, or 25% of British Muslims sympathised with the London bombers. How nice of them. That's about there. Yeah, about there. S. Sympathisers. Alright? Terrorists, sympathisers. The next lot. There have been some polls connected to these that showed an average of how many apologists there are. But this is a guess. I don't want the Islamists to complain about this. I don't have a protractor, alright? So about there. A. Apologists. Now, the left and liberals could fit into this category, a lot of them. Okay? But this is a Muslim pie chart. I might do a leftist pie chart at one point. These are the ones, sympathisers are self-explanatory. The apologists are the ones who will only condemn terrorism, but with a caveat. Okay? You won't get them to say terrorism is wrong. They have to use a caveat. Okay? It's like part of their nature. So it'll be something like, yeah, blowing up a school bus is wrong, but, and then the whole spiel afterwards. So it's a half-hearted attempt at condemnation, but the main point is always the but, and then the whole spiel, and it's the typical rant. America did this, the Pope said that, the cartoons, Israel, blah, 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 blah. Alright, so that's apologists. The next lot, by far the largest, yeah, right there or something. That's all this lot, right? That's also an A. Apathetic. This lot are the ones who, just can't be bought. They neither condone nor condemn. People are being blown up in my name. I don't agree with bombing them, but I'm not bothered enough to go out in the street and denounce it. I know it's been done in my name, but that's apathetics. Now, the last bit here, that's the little group there, good. Okay, they outnumber the terrorists, but I'm afraid they don't outnumber the sympathisers or apologists. Okay, now the Apathetics can become active. Unfortunately, the activity tends to go this way rather than towards the good. Now, I, for example, personally know some Muslims who I would have described as apathetic. I would say to them, did you hear about the bomb and such and such? And they'd be like, nah, I couldn't ascertain if it was embarrassment or they basically just didn't give a shit. But when the cartoons came out against Muhammad, they went on the march. Okay, they weren't asking for beheadings and all that. It was a legitimate march, but that's still heading this way because why are they bothered enough about the cartoons to go out in march, but not bothered enough about 200,000 Darfurians being slaughtered to go on a good march, or bothered about the something like 700 deaths per week by Islamofascism? No, don't see them going out in a march for that. No organisations. And the good guys, they're the ones that can say, yeah, you know what? Taking over a school in a Russian province, holding 300 kids hostage, and then slaughtering 150 of them. Yeah, that's wrong. That's evil. And the sadistic bastards doing it in my name should be killed. That's the good ones. That's what we want to hear. But the good ones, look at them. They're on their own. They've got this massive apathetic cabal that just don't give a shit. They got the apologists who are basically... I mean, these guys aren't terrorist sympathisers, apologists. As I said, the left will fit in here. These guys are just deluded. It's part of their nature. They don't have a clue. They're deluded, okay? This law, I mean, terrorists, either kill them or arrest them. Simple as that. Sympathisers, corral them. They need to be watched, okay? Because they can become terrorists, okay? Equally, they can go back to being apathetic or whatever, but more likely they're going to become terrorists. Our main problem though are this lot, the apathetics, because basically they just don't give a shit.